Hello and welcome to part 13 of the Johnny Blender 4000 series. This is David Ward, and when last I left you, we had gone through and created basically the scene with the background and lights and everything, and then baked the normal map from the multi-resolution modifier that we had done. So now we're going to continue on with texturing, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Blender render, the internal renderer for now. Go ahead and set that to solid shaded. And the reason being is because I want to bake one more thing before we actually start painting any type of texture, and that is the ambient occlusion, because what that does is it basically takes everything that's next real close to each other. For example, the wrinkles here in the rubber sleeve, and it turns those dark. So it kind of takes all the nooks and crannies and darkens them. So that'll be a nice easy way to look like he's kind of got maybe some dirt into his seams here and there. So it'll really make all those extra little details like that pop out a little stronger. So let's go over here, and we're going to go to UV Image Editor. And let's go ahead and grab our model, tab into edit mode, select everything, and we're going to go ahead and X out of that image. We're going to create a new one, 2048 and 2048, and we'll just leave it black for now. And this one we're going to name JB4K underscore AO for ambient occlusion. And one thing I noticed whilst playing with this in between the segments here that I'm recording is, for some reason, when we unwrapped it earlier, it still did some of the overlapping. So I noticed that, and it made the UV baking, or the AO baking, ugly, because especially right here we have three of the little segments from the bolts on the toes that were stacked up on top of the mesh for the top of the flashlight. So we had some weird circles coming on it. Like, what is that from? So anyways, so we can take those and just move them over. I know we have them as right there on the normals map, but we didn't do any sculpting or anything right there, so that's not a big deal. That's not going to be affected. Now, if you were actually working with a model that you had put a lot of detail everywhere on, then you might want to maybe create another UV map and reproject it so nothing's overlapping, and then clone paint the bump map onto the new one. But that gets a little more complicated. So anyways, so we didn't add any extra detail there. So I did notice one other spot. Where was it? Right down here. No? Maybe could have sworn I had some overlap on one of these rods. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so we had the same kind of thing happen here. So let's just select these guys, Control L, and just move those up to right there. Seems like maybe one more spot had something. Yeah, right there. So let's just clean that up and just get it out of the way, and then that's probably good. We'll go ahead and bake out the ambient occlusion, and you can see what it's gonna kind of get a better idea of what it's gonna look like. So we'll select our guy, and we're already under a render tab, so scroll all the way down back to bake, and instead of normals, go ahead and change that to ambient occlusion, and then make sure you uncheck bake from multi-res. So now we'll go ahead and hit bake, and it's going to take all those nooks and crannies and kind of just darken them in, so it adds extra little detail there. So I'll go ahead and pause recording until that's done. I know it's not taking long. Actually, I'll just keep going. It's almost done, I think. See the slider bar right there, progress bar. Almost there, and it's done. So we'll just go ahead and save this as an image. JBAO, go ahead and save that. And as soon as it's done, there we go. Now we can pop back into Cycles. Okay, and go to our Materials tab and go ahead and change this window back to the Node Editor. And now we're going to actually start messing with the diffuse color. So let's grab this image texture, Shift D, duplicate it up, and go ahead and change that to JB4K or JB4K AO. And if we just drag that over to the color swatch there on the diffuse, and if we change this to, say, just texture, you can see that it added a lot of detail there in the nooks and crannies of our model. So it looks pretty cool. So tell you what, just to get things out of the way, let's put the camera, the light source, and the ground plane on its own layer. I like to put them way over here, out of the way. So now we can actually see what we're doing a little better, not have all that stuff in the background. So this is, yeah, I like how it did this. It added a lot of detail, like there amongst the screws and the bolt heads and everything like that, and the seams and everything. So yeah, that'll be a good basis for our main texture of the model here. So one thing I want to do before we go any further, though, is just for visual sake, I'm going to go ahead and give those rubbery parts a rubbery texture. So let's go ahead and add one more material here. Go ahead and hit new, and I'm going to name this, well, why not, rubbery material. There we go. And it's going to also be diffused, but we're going to change it down to a very dark gray. Not black per se, but just pretty dark gray. And go ahead and open that preview, and we can get the monkey head. And you can kind of see, maybe we'll add a tiny bit of glossiness to it. And the way we do that is we just add another shader, and it's going to be glossy, BSDF. Just add that up there. And then we'll add one more shader, and it's going to be a mix shader, so we can mix the diffuse and the glossy together. So drag that over there. Drag that down to there. Let's go ahead and swap those. I don't like them to be crossed like that. So right now we have a 0.5, so it's 50% of this glossiness and 50% of the roughness. And you can see over here it's a very silverish color, which is kind of undesirable at this point. We want it to be rubber, not silver. So let's set the factor to, let's say, 0.1. And actually, that's going to, I guess it goes top to bottom. So 0.1 means it has only 0.1% of, or maybe it goes bottom to top, I don't know. 0.1, basically 10% of the black and 90% of the glossy white. So let's set that to the opposite, say 0.9. There we go. And we see a lot better representation over here, but still a little too shiny. So let's set the roughness to, let's say, 0.5. And that'll diffuse it out quite a bit more. And maybe 0.95 there. So that's getting there. Maybe not quite as rough. Let's try 0.35. That's a little better. Kind of has a rubbery look. Maybe a little bit more. It's 0.97. So very soft gloss. There we go. That'll work. Okay. And now to apply this material to all those individual pieces, you do just like you do in Blender default, or the internal renderer. Just go into edit mode and select, let's control up, get all of these. Just select one of the vertices from each one of those rubber parts that you're wanting to apply this material to. And around the ankles, and the neck, and the waist, and control L, just so we get those selected. And then we also want to put that well, around on the fingers as well. So one vertex from each one of these, and then the same thing over here, and there, oops, there. And also on the pads, on the fingers and the feet. So select one of those, one of those, one of those, and the palm of the hand as well. There, there, control L, good. Same thing over here. Select all these guys, control L, and the palm of the hand. There we are. Okay, and then let's go to our side view. Scroll down here and get a few of those vertices from the rubber soles of the feet, and then the canisters on each one of the pistons. There. And finally, there. Okay, so that should be, I think that should be good to go on the rubbery material. So tell you what, let's do. Let's go ahead and minimize that again and go to our object data tab, and let's go ahead and just create a vertex group just so we have that separated out so we don't have to worry about it next time if we want to select everything. So just go ahead and hit the plus sign, and it's going to create a new group, and we'll call this rubbery material. There we go. And go ahead and assign all of those to that vertex group. So now, since we still have them selected, we can go over to our materials tab and have the rubbery material material selected, go ahead and hit assign, and it assigns that there. So now you can see a difference in between the texture map that we have for the metal part and then the white actually, which will be black when you render it. So if we go to rendered mode and turn on the layer that has, come on Blender, catch up. Turn on the layer that has our lights and stuff in it. You can see now that we have that rubber texture in there. So let's go ahead and save this so far. Take it a minute. There we go. And let's go ahead and come back out of render view, back to, let's say, material view. There we go. And you can see a good preview of the color in that as well, without having to wait for it to render all the passes and everything. So now what we're going to do is set up the light material for the eyes and the, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to add. I want the housing around the eyes. Control L. Right. There we go. I want that also to have that rubbery material. So we'll go ahead and assign that. And let's go ahead and make sure we put it in that vertex group as well. So assign there. Okay, so now, there we go. Okay, now that third material. So we'll go ahead and hit the plus sign, new. And this one's going to be blue light. Okay? And now, instead of a diffuse BSDF, it's going to be an emission. And it's going to be a very soft blue, about like so. Right there. Okay. And the strength, let's make it 0.5. So it's, well, we're gonna mix it with. Actually, we're gonna mix it with a glossy and a diffuse, just so it has. It's not completely lit up. It's not a bright light. It's actually a glass. Well, you'll understand once we get there. Okay, so we're going to add another shader, and it's going to be a mix shader, just so we can get that started. And then we're going to add another shader, and this is going to be glossy. Let's add that down here, and one more. And this one's going to be diffuse. Okay. So we're going to make this, all of these, well, on the glossy we'll leave it white, but on the diffuse, go ahead and select that, and then get the eyedropper, slowly, there we go, and collect that same color. And the mix shader, go ahead and drag that down here. We're going to mix the glossy and the diffuse together first, and then we're going to mix that with the emission. So there we go. Okay, so just so we can see it in the window here, let's go ahead and apply it to our lenses on our eyes. So select those guys. Did I select the right one? No. There and there. Good. And then on the chest lamp thing as well. Let's zoom in on that so I can get a good selection there. There we go. Okay. And let's do like we did on the rubbery parts. Go ahead and give it its own vertex group. So a new one. And we'll say blue lights. Okay. Go ahead and assign that. And we'll go back to materials and go ahead and assign that. So now we can get a better idea of what that's going to look like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and save. And take it a second. There we go. Okay, so now you can get an idea of what the light's going to look like. It's looking decent, but I would like to adjust it a bit. Let's make it a little more shiny, actually. So let's go 0.1 on that, the roughness. You can see that focuses it a little bit. Let's get the monkey head there. There we go. But I would like the blue to be a little less, or the gloss to be a little less strong. So let's set that to, say, 0.9. That's a little too plasticky, I think. Let's go 0.8, maybe 0.75. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, and then on the glossiness, I would kind of like the emission to take a little more precedence than the glossy blue. So let's set that to, let's try 0.35. You can see that. Okay, and maybe we'll even make the glossy a little brighter than the diffuse and make that a little darker maybe. Okay, so, and the strength. Go ahead and set the strength of the emission back to 1. And then, yeah, let's play with this a little bit. Maybe 0.6. Okay, I like that. Now, okay, so the overall settings we have here is on the glossy, it has a white color, the roughness is 0.1, and then on the diffuse we have a darker blue color, roughness is 0, doesn't matter, and those are both put into a mix shader where the factor is 0.75, so it's 75% of this diffuse blue and the remaining 25% of the white. And then on the mix shader that connects the emission to this mixed glossy diffuse, the strength is set to 1 on the emission, and then the mix shader is 0.6. So that is our light, blue light material. So, okay, let's go ahead and save one more time. Take it a second, okay, and then we'll go back to rendered viewport. And we can get an idea of what this is going to look like once it actually finishes rendering out. So that's pretty good. Maybe the... I guess they're supposed to be lit up. I was going to say it's a little too bright, maybe. And yeah, I think it is. Let's go ahead and darken that to where it just has a very subtle glow to it. So maybe 0.3 on that one. Actually, I guess we'd have to make it higher, wouldn't we? 0.8, try that. Maybe even further, try 0.9. There we go. 0.9 will work, I do believe. Okay. So now we have our base materials ready to roll. Let's go ahead and start adding a little bit of different things here, like on that dent in his forehead. I'd like to add a lighter color to where it looks like it kind of scraped the paint whatever it was hit him, probably a rock or something. I don't know. But let's go back to texture and might need to leave it on rendered actually, because I can't tell where the dent is if the normal map is not turned on. So one thing that might make this a little faster is turn off our subsurf for now. It'll make things a little easier to navigate through. Okay, so let's turn this window back into the UV image editor, and we're going to go ahead and create a new material. Let's tab in edit mode so we can actually go back to solid view so we can see that. Create a new material. Okay. This one's going to be JB4K underscore texture, finally, 2048 by 2048. And this one we're going to make it kind of a bronzy color. So kind of a gray, mid-gray, that comes down a little bit into the brownish orangey color. So maybe about right there. Maybe a little darker even. So there we go. That'll work. Okay, so now we have that brownish color. Now, when we're texture painting in cycles, we go to texture paint just like we do in Blender Internal, but it doesn't show automatically the material you have tagged to the model. It shows the material that you have on the it shows the texture that you have on the actual material. So what we have to do is go over to Material, select our robot metal, and go to our texture settings. And right here under image texture.001, let's change that to it'll be JB4 texture. Okay, there we go. Let's change it right in there. So now we can see that in effect there. Okay. So in order to see that dent in his forehead, turn the viewport to shading to rendered. And if we open up our toolbox, okay, our brush right now is white. So if we zoom in here and paint white in here, is it going to let me? Okay, it showed up over here, but it's not showing up in here. So yeah, let's see. Maybe it won't show in rendered texture. Yeah, there we go. Guess it doesn't show under rendered settings until you actually save the images. Oh, okay, you just got to refresh it, I guess. So let's add one more dot there. Good. Maybe just a slight little bit there. And let's set our strength down. And on a texture, let's create a new texture right there, new. And the cloud texture will be fine. Let's go over here to that cloud texture And I believe it's kind of hard to tell what I'm doing. I'm not real well versed in cycles, so forgive me if you know more about this than I do. But okay, so we can see the example there. Let's set the contrast up quite a bit. You can see it changing there. Maybe the brightness down some. And I would like to change this to a different version of the cloud. A little more rough, maybe. Let's try that one and maybe change the contrast back down some. But the size, I'd like to make the size bigger. There we go. Okay, so now if I paint in here, tell you what, let's go to texture settings here so I can see what I'm doing a little better. And I want that to act as a mask rather than painting black and white on like it's doing. So let's do this. Turn the overlay on. That didn't change anything, did it? Like I said, I'm not real well versed with this. Let me pause recording and kind of figure this out, and then I'll come right back. Okay, easy change. It's just under the blend mode. Before it was mix, I believe. Yeah. So let's change it to add. So we're adding the white to there, so we can put some kind of light scrapes across there. Maybe set the strength down a little further. And let's turn off the alpha there. That didn't make a difference, did it? And on the stroke, let's set the spacing a little higher. Turn off jitter. Airbrush. Well, it's kind of keeping that brush in the spot. I'd kind of like to use it a little differently, but anyways, I usually create my textures and things in Photoshop, so little different this way. But anyways, now we've got that bump done. Where's the other bumps at? Let's see. Render settings there. Looks like we have a bump right over here on his hips. So we'll do the same thing there. Kind of just paint this in. Maybe. I guess you got to come out of it and then back into it. Get a better view. You see this? Well. Oh. Uh-oh. Undo all that. What is going on here? Weird. Okay. Well, okay, that was just the, well, odd. Very odd. Not sure what's going on there. But anyways, tell you what. Let's turn off the texture painting. Just go ahead and delete that out. There we go. Might be a little easier this way. And set the strength. Okay, it's already down pretty far. So we got a dent there. Seems like I put one over here too. No. Okay, maybe on the, yeah, there we go. A little bit there. A little bit right there. Okay, so now let's go back to texture, and I can just kind of make my brush way light. Just kind of paint over that just a little bit, just some light swatches, like so. Kind of worn spots. Maybe a little bit of worn spot over here on this edge. Strength way down. And we can also set the curve a little tighter, so it's more of a, has a better blend out there. Go ahead and paint this a little bit better too. Okay, so let's turn the layer off that has all the camera and everything on there. Okay, so we're just kind of painting along some of these edges there just to kind of give it a worn look. There. Let's undo that a little bit. There we go. I was behind it when I painted, so it didn't keep the correct visible surface available. So Okay, so we got the white going on. Maybe some down here too. And for the most part, the ambient occlusion that we baked, it can act as the dirty part, but I would like to add a little bit more on there. Connect some of those scrapes together there. So let's change our brush to a darker color, not quite black, but like a really dark gray, or dark brown, grayish brown, like so. And I'd like to paint that on top of our ear receivers. You set the strength up a little higher. Oh, I still have the add turned on, so make sure you go back to mix. There we go. Set the strength back down. And tell you what, let's turn off these guys so it's painting on both sides at the same time. There we go. It's going to dirty him up a bit. Maybe inside his mouth too. Let's make that a little... Actually, just go to the side, because if we have those three things, occlude, cull, and normal turned off, then it's going to kind of go right through there. Paint that. Okay. So smooth this up. Just go ahead and turn those back on. Smooth that up now. And just add some general filth. He's kind of, I guess, I don't know what world this guy lives in. Maybe a post-apocalyptic type of environment. But he doesn't get cleaned very often, probably. So, to be honest, it's amazing he's still in working order. I'll just say it. I don't know. But, come on now. Anyways, so we'll call that done on the general texture map. So we'll go ahead and save as, save image. Cannot write it because I haven't actually save as image. There we go. And it's already got the name, so we'll go ahead and save. Okay, so now let's go ahead and come out of texture paint and just go back to object mode. There we go. And now go back over here to the node editor and make sure. Okay, so we have that image that we started painting there as an image already, but we want to add the ambient occlusion image on top of that, and then use a multiply color to add them together. So we'll go to color, mix RGB, drag that up here. Go ahead and cut the chord right there. Add that to color 2, add this to color 1, and then add the mix down to that color. There we go. And over here, let's go ahead and let's see under the node JB4 texture. Go ahead and go to our rendered settings so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so oh, I see. The reason it didn't change because I haven't told it to change yet. Let's go ahead and make one of these textures here the AO. So there we go. And you can see they're halfway mixed right now, but I don't want that. I want to multiply them together. And let's swap those and set that all the way to 1. Not seeing any change there. Oh, because it says non-color. We need to make sure that's color, and this one also is color. There we go. The normals doesn't need to be color, but the texture maps themselves actually do. So, okay, so we have the AO showing up, but it should be both of them by now. Maybe it needs to be 0. No. Swap those out. Okay, let's see what it looks like in rendered view. Go ahead and turn the layer on with the lights and everything. And there we go. We got that nice brown color with the dent and everything. And then we also have the color, baked ambient occlusion in there along the edges. So let's see. Let's make this a little lighter, maybe. Tell you what, let me get a good view of this, if I set it to 0, it's only the texture map, and if I set it all the way to 1, it's only the ambient occlusion. Okay, so that's good. Going back to multiply. Okay, so now we have the material set up and running a little low on time, but we're almost done with this. All I want to do now is add a glossy texture here so we can actually get a metallic sheen. So let's add one more shader, and it's going to be a glossy. Drag it up here, and then we need to add a mix shader. Drag this out some. There we go. Make this window a little smaller. Go ahead and hit T and N so that window's a little bigger for you. Okay, and we're going to add a shader, mix shader right there. And go ahead and cut the noodle right there. Drag that over to here. Connect that noodle. There we go. And then on our image texture, actually, I was going to put that into the color part of the glossy, but I'll leave it white because we want it to reflect just white light there. So diffuse BSDF, just go to that shader, and then glossy, we'll go to that shader. And you can see it's very metallic looking now, which looks okay, but I don't want him that shiny. So let's set the roughness here to about 0.35 maybe. Dull that down some, and then also set the shader there to maybe 0.8 so you can see more of that darkness. And also, tell you what, let's add this multiply here to the roughness, and makes it very shiny except for the white, which kind of the opposite effect what I'd like. So tell you what, let's add a color invert in between there. So boom, and there we go. So now it's shiny there on the white, sort of, but the rest is not shiny at all. I don't know if I like that. Tell you what, let's just go ahead and get rid of it, and we'll set the, let's go ahead and make the roughness 0.2 again, just so it's kind of shinier. But he's very dark. I don't like that darkness that much. So instead of multiply, let's just go screen. There we go. That'll look better. So it's kind of just an overlay, or even try overlay. Overlay works. There we go. Maybe make him 0.9 there. There we go. Okay, I like that. I think we are done texturing him, and he's pretty well done. He's rigged up, he's textured, and he's pretty well ready to roll. So that was a long part 13. Apologize, it's gone on 33 minutes now. Yeah, that's going to be it for part 13, I believe. And he's pretty well done. So in part 14, we'll just mess with some posing and different things like that, and then we'll kind of just wrap this series up. So thank you for watching, and that's going to be it for part 13. I'll catch you in part 14.